Hello, fellow YouTubers and people across the internet, the World Wide Web, Americans, Connecticut intercities, not just Weathersfield campuses, have and have had roles with overt criminal enterprises and with private ones, and with syntax tricks that are being and haven't been vertically and horizontally placed, where we describe logic instances, how reason works, since before our founders were born. At those same founding locations, Weathersfield, Connecticut is the last of 13 counter extorted positions to enable ourselves, America, to become a country still with the entrenched extortion, torture, and slavery method. But it was now counter extorted and now had to hide from the laws individually grouped in together that kept suits and ties, their counters and exceptions as collusions, as arrays of opinions and subject treatments used to measure and maintain left out the order of the finite, the value of that which is simultaneously recorded. We have black pupils with the same color eyes. We have white eyes, same color eyes, and different color eyes at the same time. Some of us have the same color eyes too, with the exceptions part. And so difference is one of the things nature's identity is showing us its identity, hyper invisible but still discernible. Just like this cell body, cell nucleus, cell wall slash S, in the body of value coming through. Appreciation of the water and its elements, appreciation, diffusion of it too, and of the gases and their elements, appreciation, not just positive and negative, but it's a system by that. Anything invisible but still discernible has relativity to positive and negative simultaneously as an identity, even an identity as an act has relative to positive and negative simultaneously. A predicate act, I am not a lawyer. A predicate act shows a criminal insidiousness nature. There are fact treatment nature predicate acts. Now we're dealing with not just organized crimes and war crimes. They have left out that which took possession of names A through Z since before modern religion's founders were even born. The sciences had been taken abridged. Other became the systems plural. That is the one that assigned names A through Z to speak other and with other answers, not just by the nature itself, but also by our founders with other communicated for themselves than they asked to communicate. To understand this, we must understand the three volumes of our founders, being Native Americans, A through Z, and the fact that they had to fight with each other about how to counter it, the breaching method. But that is see president slash chief. And then our founders as the portion that had to counter extort the other founders. And all of them had to have their actual motivations. All of them had to entertain words that they communicated for us to understand and communicate that they didn't want entertained and spoken. They had to entertain natures of industries and natures of wealth that are meaningless relative to where and how they're applied meanings. So in other words, it has ties to all subjects, individually grouped and together. It's why we are individual grouped, different slash essence, species, volume, indifferent. Because it is one science that we abridged, it shows. So it has been abridged since some ancient times. And nature's demonstrations of that, instead of being received properly. That's why we have to treat the torture, extortion, slavery method. Because it's all about keeping those demonstrations of nature on other things other than ourselves. Before our founders were born in America and in Russia, before America's founders were even born, and in Ukraine, the suburbs were designed for the torture, for the extortion, for the fact, human nature, slavery of people A through Z. Not just used remotely from abroad, not just also grouped countries, all positive treatments and negative treatments syntactically to keep the identity of aggression and their roles with it from being discerned, because that's what nature's showing us. And then how it uses everyone is self-value. How that is self-value, you have to understand before anyone took any oath, they had roles with predicate acts with facts. Each age of fact-keeping nature, they're putting fake things in databases. Each age of correlation nature was and is capable of discerning other, having been communicated for our founders and by nature itself to communicate for our answers, black pupils. Here! The means appear. So we have to have mandated law followed properly. See, but we have a certain type of victim / hyper victim that doesn't know how to speak for that. So they stay victim predator / hyper predator exactly with the way the breaching method needs. Interbranch, they use there are uses of themselves remotely using their differences with their thoughts while they're fabricating evidences. There is an officer, Jerry Miller, who is one of the ones on Facebook involved further with the campuses and planting evidences on all sides of the family members of, and as the kids they've been involved with abuses of. Also where and how where they help them or hurt them and their narratives by that is used to measure and maintain. No sophistication or honesty, integrity proper to counter where and how there are juxtaposed distinct identities of criminal enterprises and of criminal insidiousness involved, like wrongdoing, and like the differences between overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and the insidiousness of interbranch and or the difference of them and the intelligence tied to them. There are a whole bunch of intelligence people tied to us, Subby Bajario, who have been planting evidences and identity theft, fraud, slanders, fake conversations with me, and try to make people take a picture of it to make it look like an illusion of other. And I'll only know him through confessions and his roles planting evidences with names on all sides of criminal and civil cases, and people involved with Middletown increasingly involved with other natures of organized crime with their federal criminals and patients before they got caught. And since they have roles with foreign and domestic military, Navy, they have tactically delusions raw, intelligence experts associated with Hartford Hospital and hospitals throughout the country relative to what our founders left to demonstrate. They have roles with people on Church Street in Old Wethersfield who have been forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded intercampuses to plant predicate acts and identity theft, fraud, slander acts while others can pretend to record things as collusions with names on all sides of criminal and civil cases where there are that certain type of victim / hyper victim anyway, and the difference of that with it used worse with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and the news at the same time with the same names in criminal and civil cases through time. And the victims and their advocates and appointed by the courts and people involved with uses of the hallways and uses of the crime scenes and names next to them and relative body dumping spots. Look how relativity has been replaced with theory. How our founders communicated other than they said is relativity. Comes with relativity. Nature shows us this too. So our founders had to counter-extort the other founders. That is one of the key things we need to understand. But we have to understand to appreciate that, right? You have to be able to appreciate the human fact, human nature breaching method against the Native Americans and how it being and having been against our A through Z of human species body, of individual bodies, hypernative volume science, torture, extortion, slavery, torture, extortion, pretend other too, self-valued roles with it, all form of voices for and voicings for the law. I'm not a lawyer. Their lawyers too are planting fake motivation. All truths are used for lies. It's one of the reasons why and how overtly we're supposed to address how economic values were still inclusions, criminally foreign influenced, and tactically delusions raw. The voicings of them too, through names A through Z. Otherwise, that individual was sensed, including if that individual was a majority of people, including of countries. This has and has had complete remote possession of each age of correlation natures, descriptions of what is sane or practical to convict with reason and with defenses of it and with the timing of it relative. So they're putting bad things in databases, even when they're putting good things. They're putting fake transcripts, and it's used for sick things, not to legitimately hide. They're not legit. They're confessing. Uh, uh, um, People from Hartford Hospital have roles with a whole bunch of different countries. I don't know if Central Connecticut State University, and I don't know if Trinity College, who have and have had roles of predicate acts on my street since I was a kid. And they're attaching me and others to fake ties to doctors when we're kids and then as adults. And they have their own kids spreading games with this, with foreign countries at corners of streets too. Which is one of the things. The suburbs were designed before our founders were born. There was slavery entrenched sickly distinctly in the north and in the south. And that is positive because it shows us how sickly it enables us to discern how sickly non-distinctly. But rather than to be able to discern positive where it will only stay positive unto itself, there are assignments of positive that are criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments syntactically embraced, and of negative treatments, and of identities, names, uses, and defenses of that could not originally still get away with themselves without self-valued roles with criminally foreign influence, factory nature, quality aspects, and nature relative to assignments of the identity the sciences share at each age of correlation nature, where and how they have the sciences abridged, and why, and who knows what, and whether the nature of debate has been contained, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, identity theft, fraud, slanders roles, because that is where and how it is manifest, where it looks non-distinct, where we're all hurt sickly distinctly by this, as our founders were. We were supposed to treat the extortion of George Washington honestly, which comes also with the torture method against everyone, which comes also with the slavery method against everyone, which comes also with where and how it had already been sustained against those people. England doesn't even remember the history of English. And this is it from before modern religions. The sciences had already become incapable of affording discern where ancient religions and where ancient languages had been revealed to teach, which is about the identity the sciences share and where and how and why they appear not to, comes with and has demonstrations of the same thing. They share an identity. Vaccines. So it's easier to discern too, grouped, individually grouped and together. Boxing, martial arts, and wrestling were about fighting by the rules. See, but this is where and how the rules have been value that is fake positive passion treatments for it, and fake even when honest too. Basically, that's using fake negative treatments about it. Insidious. In other words, we have black people's whites. We have the same color eyes. We have different color eyes at the same time, and there are exceptions. We have quality aspects in nature, just like the other species' bodies. Even the birds have male, female. And nature shows us to describe its identity of relationship to itself as each self, and only increasing value of that, and how hyper native pure. It's a way perfect, better than perfect to describe too. How and why the difference of the Native Americans as Americans and of ourselves, how they are hyper additionally some ways, and how we are. It's not just because of portion, you know, it's because we aren't free yet. Them fighting with themselves how to adapt to it did damage control. It enabled the phenomenon of our founders who could temporarily account or extort at 13 colonies within more than 13 colonies. People long to get them then stuck by the system that already had everyone extorted, tortured, and enslaved, factory nature enslaved, and everyone around them, sickly distinctly, non distinctly, and simultaneously. And everyone reliant upon that stuff, right? Or what you sense people with fact, in other words, see how they want to make them, oh, this is bad, a bad statement against people. And then they want to debate about that and leave out what came first. They have been fabricated. They have their differences into branch used with sequence shifts. It's how there were only three branches of government. It was clearer than day how they could keep them and the overt criminal enterprises and private ones as collusions, keeping other communicated for our founders, then and defended as their voice. Self-value too. How that got away with that, you have to address what is actually recorded at each age and nature of campus. So we come to economic treatments and things like that where everyone's shocked and awe. And these are right at the locations where we have the diplomats and all that. They're on their minds still. Yeah. Campus Mars. We must be Romulus. Romulus is the science of Alpha and Omega, which is appreciation of the science as the science, but distinctly from yin yang. Yin yang, the identity of that is the identity actually of space/existence. It will only stay positive unto itself. Well, how could there be negative value in each progressions, acts, or natures then? Well, because there are special differences involved. Earth has a special difference that has not been appreciated by the identities of logic, by the lists associated with descriptions of all words and values like success. Yeah, black pupils. So, in other words, honesty is going to speak for the people of New York City. Yeah. And this is tired. I was in the Ninth Circuit Court right next to the World Trade Center tower, leading up to in the World Trade Center attack and since. I begged them to stay predators and stay identity, theft, fraud, slander, rule, planting fake, having fake motivations, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me and to others, with those spots next to it too. And the names on off the World Trade Center involved. WFSB has with Connecticut news. They're being coached by intelligence names next to them and next to Fox Connecticut News through time. Roles with a whole bunch of different countries like Russians and people from Saudi Arabia that they forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded to roles with predicate acts with them. Also, how facilitated through others. They play like hear no evil, see no evil, and then they make things up and attach strangers to fake conversations. Where how the agencies have been using the right to lie, individually grouped in together with the branches of government, Differentially, though, sometimes it's the intelligence locations tied to them. Increasingly, a whiting forensics has roles with the same houses and their connections between each other since I was a kid, who have roles with the intelligence community as their teachers and involve attaching kids in other classes to fake ties to others, fake natures of ties to others, fake motivations for it, and wire crime roles and methods where others are changing the words. So they keep people fighting for why they're lying about why they're using their names and what their motivations are, even with them not realizing. That's why it's important to get the Connecticut interbranch onto paper because these are their names and sources are ones involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and that hyper private one, which and or if, the breaching method as an only increasing scientific value, which is also increasingly being and having been blamed on other things, others ourselves, and or that has stayed as means to keep from appreciation all the revelations that come with having black people's rights of eyes. And this having been left out with every time, with every treatment claimed, quote, serious, unquote, about things like slavery, just psychopath, collusion roles, differences A through Z, screening the breaching method, scientific value, proper descriptions of how reason works. They made people yell, the intelligence community with Hartford Hospital, tons of names tied to ones all along Route 3. And what are they doing with my name along Route 3? With remote control cars too. And what are they doing with the people on 2 Highway tied to this Mayor Gold and mayors through time, involved with child offenders and identity theft fraud. These are people with medical corruption, with judges and prosecutors and their family members. Fear God, get them on paper right now. I want them on paper with the rest of the people involved with the principal child abuser and with my name on that street and tied to them. Jennifer Picky, please get this. I need this Jonathan Maiano and his family members on paper and one name in sequence. Narrative. They have roles with some bad people, including judges and prosecutors and their family members, and more people forging and switching names in wire crimes with Wethersfield police and their neighbors of the people tied to them. Get them on paper. Let's go. A bunch of police departments involved with child offenders still and religious spots. I'll show you how they keep them fake. And women judges involved with this. This is hyper evidential. We're going to refer to it as hyper evidential. We're going to appreciate that identity of hyper simultaneous that revealed why and how humanity has two eyes and the other species bodies have two eyes and insects have quality aspects in nature and consciousness relative to. And we're gonna deal with exceptions and exception nature in ways that experts of each of the sciences, including programming, they cannot afford to have it discerned because it teaches exactly better than the short words with their confections about how the programming works than their programmers do. Because this is about what sequence nature is a distinct identity of simultaneous nature. Boxing, actually just things, but long. The species body longs to shadow box. There is one way alone. Boxing is fun. Even when full war, sure, boxing. In other words, species body. We need to fight together. You think we're in the semi-ancient trap before cars, before our founders were even born? They designed suburbs tactically denatured. We know this because slavery was entrenched north and south, designed for the suburbs. They have homes designed and built before our founders were born. Here, they had slavery north and south. Oh, that's over. It's not just against black. You guys even bring into how we have black peoples yet. It's not over. We are quality as fact, treatment nature. where it counts, and what came first. So the sustained breaching method stole humanity's names A through Z to systems anything other but from the hypernative one. Boxing is fun. Yeah. One way / hyper way. And that reveals how it is revealed and appreciates how it is making more of itself out of nowhere. We can tap into this, make evolution's fruits, gifts, means out of nowhere. We have to appreciate we are quality of fact, cheap nature distinctly from how we are quality as physical nature. Each age of correlation nature was its time. The breaching method showed them this. So I never had anything to do with Mark Violet and Justa Kovinskis. They made 2 exceptions right before I went into middle school. They were in my area. And I never saw them with the other neighbors or kids or anything like that. So they're putting people with the people from Hartford Hospital have roles with intelligence community and other hospitals, New Britain hospitals. They have roles with intelligence community, foreign, domestic. They have cultural narratives and natures who have badges, who cannot defend their descriptions of the law and their convictions and readings of precedents of statutes, and to have examined properly what is actually recorded. Certain type of, and when that's not true, it's time. There's a difference between them and all sides in criminal and civil cases too, simultaneously at the same time. They're fit roles, tools to lock everyone incapable of going back, being honest at the moment or to come, with details finite. Therefore, with the order the finite, the sequence value. What came first? Or the smallest finite detail of the republic now, even if everyone agrees to believe and believes other. If we get it wrong, nature is going to show us we're using systems other than its own. What it teaches us the difference between positive and negative. It shows us the difference between not just criminal and seditious natures of positive treatments or too, but how truths also can be used for lies. True and or by other people, if they know it or not, that could be sentenced. That's what is how we're supposed to appreciate how little kids in New York City could sense how the doctors and the professors and the teachers associated with them at their schools when they're a little kid, they know more than that. They are ignoring how we have black pupils, whites of eyes. They are ignoring how they have collusions with people that we don't even know, who know our names, and who are taking collusions where they're putting adults are making people act so others can make illusions and make it look like kids have ties to each other, natures or ties to each other, and or motivations, because the difference of that too. It's not just it's speaking, oh, we have white eyes, black people's the same. Well, we have different color eyes. It's not just speaking this way. Everything's about difference. Its difference is being shown to us as a functional part of reason. How the hyper invisible is distinct from the invisible, but still discernible. The hyper invisible is why there are 7 names for the verb. It's appreciation of the only increasing value of that, and its identity of relationship to itself simultaneously. Same reason it is appreciation of how every subject individually grouped subjects or any list of simultaneous things. They have simultaneously the value of slash and more in the plural coming in, more subjects. Where existence came from is where the hyper and how the hyper simultaneous, its identity of relationships to itself and the value of that are equally increasing, where we have extents of the simultaneous that we could appreciate, means and ways to appreciate it. So simultaneously, we are a species body of volume, and there are other species bodies of volume, and they are here with Earth that has a special difference with these bodies, revealed by its better than perfect system, making more of itself through the better, the better than perfect that comes with where and how parts of life are perfect slash better than perfect. See, but we have the phenomenon of Boolean logic involvements. See the word. See how that sounds like bully, and how bully has been, repeated with the news, the arts, bully, because they're putting fake descriptions of the real causes of in and how and proper, all the names involved with instance and motivations for things that happen. The breaching method employed other things. It employed others and or selves to be blamed for itself, and it made identities of industries names and roles in nature's hyper additionally reliant upon that, where and how as manifest fact human nature, as natures and styles of logic, descriptions of logic and reason, proper convictions, proper of honesty. Only in criminal and citizens' natures of positive treatments have been those descriptions of honesty. We have these means of having having had black pupils, whites of eyes, to have discerned. There is hyper evidential, and it has been replaced by the evidential. And once we have proper American history told, it is a simple fact to understand. Our founders had to counter with James Madison's plan and George Washington's plan. They had to counter extort those involved with the torture, the extortion, and the fact should be nature slavery of themselves. But if they tried to address that against themselves alone and or against others, they would have entered the quality of fact should be nature. That would not have been able to defend through such collusions only allowed to get surfaced. The directions for us to get the Constitution unabridged and to use Marbury versus Madison in nature itself. Vaccines. YouTuber Anthony Wall will heal all things. I'll write a Burroughs book, and we can make that fund a movie company for New York City, where and how we can make hyper positive out of negatives. But once we start doing that, you see already this breaching method employed people needs to make criminal insidiousness natures of positives out of negatives, and or the self-value roles, needs, and natures that way. No matter if you're an individual as a leader, no matter if you're the most powerful leader, say there's a name of a certain type of leader that's the most powerful leader. All locations, areas, and states that speak for individual, group difference, species difference, humanity voicing, for example, fake, criminal and citizens natures of positive treatment. Other is speaking, has spoke for the hyper native identity of relationship to itself. That was the subject and longing of the Native Americans individually grouped in together while they were fighting with each other. It was for defenses of this, that everyone had been separated from the system that causes positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures. And even when it makes them that are criminal insidiousness, it makes that positive because that comes with the reason, the way to show how to do it right. So now we have nature law where people too scared of them wanting to get hurt. Employed that. It employed the natures of difference, including of wealth, too. Sometimes grouping, but increasingly. This uses you already used remotely names in all sides of criminal and of civil cases. Their victims, the victims' advocates, the news at the same time, and the interbranch switching name switching sequence and putting fake evidences into those databases at the same time. People tied to that. This uses descriptions of all instances and names, roles, predicate acts before people took oaths. It's very serious how these simple words that I and the others need to make are prevented, prevent us from writing, where you've been the roles with timed overt criminal enterprise, private home bunch of nations, but at the same time, all investigators and their kids. There's a phenomenon where and how they have already been used remotely, and then so increasingly they're doing this at each of the campuses. We have subjects and problems and things that come up manifest where they can't afford to be discerned, which properly recorded because they have roles too with the agencies too with wire crime acts and methods, identity thefts and frauds, whole fake transcripts, all natures of crime our country's intelligence has stayed with. Then they're going to speak about things, wars. They're going to speak about a murder. They have a whole bunch of murders tied, shootings. They're different police departments all tied to the same house, and they're different ones, and their connections to each other. Then they want us to. Then they lie about they even kids. People have brought this up. They know that they bring if people bring up their names, they get the wrong outcome because the courts are involved with it. They're lying about what they think are the motivations of others when we speak. A whisper creek. We cannot leave out their roles. That's what correlation shows the breaching method by holding how the branch of the government, the overt criminal enterprises, the private ones, insidiousness to the logic of A through Z, like regarding the value of voting or the differences between the parties. Here. So, in other words, and Officer Jerry Miller is one of the ones involved on one side of my house, and then there's the Dillon family, on all sides of my house, the Dillon family too, with them. He brought up the name Kerr, a Jerry Kerr. There are more than one Jerry Kerrs, and there's a Michael Kerr, and they're also involved with corners of streets, and a whole bunch of people that were tied to my neighbors switching names. And I'm not trying to bring up them. In other words, you're lying about why I'm using people's names. They brought it up. At Trinity College, people have roles with untimely deaths, and people involved with child abusers at the same time. And people make confessions about their roles with their families with the body dumping spots of Billy Grasso, reported of Billy Grasso, and confessed. And their roles on off the state of Connecticut judicial branch offices in conjunctions to it as names filming illusions at other locations through time. A whole bunch of people tied to Mazzucato family, I don't know at all. People like the time where you're going to go, and remember, I never had anything to do with them. They have roles with various natures of judges. A whole bunch of people on Two Route Highway and Hangdog Lane are recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Involved with people putting fake evidences and ties and fake natures of ties between kids, with a whole bunch of probate court judges involved with veteran homes and schools. These are people involved with the torture method, extortion method, using as evidence as pretended legitimate things, building off fake things our founders had to entertain and say, and not appreciating how and why there are those three natures of our founders that we have to discern. When I say our founders, I always mean the Native Americans, president / chief, but I mean also our founders who had to counter extort the other founders. Has nothing to do with president or chief. It was born slavery, abridged constitution. Here, black people, finish. Fact, human nature, quality frees us at last. People want to make it, it's easy to make people think that people are having differences. It's only to hide the foreign bodies. In other words, they're not legitimately hiding the role, not legitimately even with money, because why would you get involved with our conversations? Make sure you get on paper with the interbranch. Hartford courts and the Britain courts and people with the Connecticut District Court have also, with former director of the FBI, they have roles with names on off the mall in West Hartford, and involved with deans of colleges. All campuses are great. They make you call names or say things about campuses so they can change what people say per readings of statutes that they get away with, per mandated law not followed properly and on time, and per the relativity of where and how. For example, before people took oaths, they had roles with predicate acts with facts, and with relative tactical delusions, plural, tactical delusions. The people involved with the January 6th treatments are being used by their legal advisors to measure and maintain that the nature still leaving out, as criminal and citizen teachers, leaving out and having left out the involvements of foreign bodies with all location /s and with the names involved. So there are people from the intelligence community from Trinity College, Hartford, and Central Connecticut State University, and UConn, and Quinnipiac University, and Bryant University, and Johnson and Wales, who have roles stacking predicate acts with facts in databases, and wire crime acts and methods with various natures of agencies and descriptions regarding such descriptions of such and the names involved. So we need to use the hyper evidential black pupils. And so we cannot leave out those first things because that's part of how they get away with it. Before they took oaths, they were criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, rot, and the difference between that and the judges involved with them too. Those are the same ones involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and unions at corners of buildings, where and how used remotely. Our investigators, there are volumes of the kids and adults with identity thefts and frauds, where they're trying to establish fake things as unmarked police forms or whatever they're doing with the Los Solitos on off Hartford Hospital with videos regarding that. And news reports and journalism that has roles with the people with the Wethersfield police and that have the houses and the names like Cololo involved with them with wire crimes and with Newington police and Rocky Hill police and police forums and co-defendants of former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and their neighbors have roles with saying things at locations for criminally foreign influence reasons, where they've been planting evidences with name and roles with uses of names on all sides of criminal and civil cases. These are also people involved with child abuses and abusers associated with Sandy Hook campuses and the prisons involved. Increasingly, it's people tied to the conjunctions, to the Connecticut State Judicial Branch offices, and people tied to the Wethersfield witch trial places, associated also with Webb House, with no "the" before it, and then how they changed it again, and narratives by that. It has something to do with names on Church Street in Old Wethersfield, have roles with overt criminal enterprises and private ones with grammar school kids and middle school kids, with names making fake exceptions, like they put Heather Hansen and a Joe DeMauro and a Ray Colo and a grammar school and a summer school class with me. But I never saw them on the middle school campus. And they had been planting evidences with judges and prosecutors and foreign bodies. Sammy the Bull, people tied per themselves. And on off parks. Like take a picture and then pretend you know those people. Has something to do with their roles with the World Trade Center and people with the name Joshua Stryker. I never seen Joshua Stryker in my area. He's recorded involved with people with criminally foreign influence uses of corners of streets near me, and they're everyone and exceptions. And there are people with how they put the Morgan Circle street name up, and narratives by that involved with mayors, involved with child offenders, also with medical offenders, and ones with badges and ones with gavels, putting fake things in records, and their drugs and medicines crimes with their family members has something to do with their roles with shopping centers and with malls, the ones also with corners of streets and those founding locations. They will tell you they've been coached, forced, tricked, hurt, persuaded intercampuses. They were one of the ones you involved with where we could discern how investigators are being and have been used remotely, criminally foreign influenced. There are ones from Hartford Hospital that puts me in fake conversations with themselves, named Leahy. And there are ones with the name Dingleberry and Dewberry that a Yagman family also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Roles with them with various natures of drugs and medicines crimes. Also with other agencies in intercities, with houses next to schools, um, acting so others can film fake ties and natures of ties to kids. Rules with stealing from them, with the families that run the school resource officer. Fake more, in other words, they're big trying begins everything. They're using locations needing to hide life progressions. They spoke for the law before they could. Certain type of victim slash hyper victim, the breaching method knew they would at countries A through Z. Our names of the human's volume system as assigned by its system as its system have been assigned to other meanings. And they reassigned narratives regarding the history of algebra. I had a sophomore algebra teacher who was increasingly involved with people with confessions she made regarding people in my area near me and uses of themselves and their kids. They're increasingly involved with predicate acts on my streets with her and with the people further involved with the policing I caught with the child abuser principal and deans involved, like a Dean Judd and his family members. And this Dean Alford, he's being lied to by people. So we need to get them on paper. They're trying to make it look like they're changing what people say. Former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and overt criminal enterprises and leaders of Afghans and Afghan kids are involved with them next with the houses and names next to Trinity College and next to the school, the campuses next to there. They have rules with foreign and domestic medical families, putting fake things in databases about kids, filming fake ties so make it look like people know each other that don't, specifically so they can keep as roles with names on all sides of criminal and civil cases. News at the same time planting fake evidences, including World Trade Center predicate acts. Think about that name, World Trade. They have rules with trade agreements, like with all kinds of mental health experts tied. Things that fund them, where they have roles with elections, locations, all kinds of natures of organized crime associated with that, and tactical delusions, right where we need serious experts on logic and reason. We have them replace roles with torture, preventing anyone from voicing the revelations. We're using truths properly. We have blood, in other words, we have these means with the hyper evidential to show that evidential treatments, when they pretend they're about evidences, all sides of cases, they're fake, sick, and originally still. This is one of the things that we were left to demonstrate, and how they were pretending other while pretending other collusions with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and their patients, pretended their patients too, into databases. So WFSB, WTNH, and Fox Connecticut News also have roles with medical offenders of kids and of elderly and of military and in their names. So they want to have a fake punk conversation and pretend we have differences. Please get them on paper too with the Eastern States Narcotics Drug Task Force in the military on and off Yukon involved with this, with the people with the name Violet and the people with the name Claw tied to them and the name Oliveri and UPS, please. Before the World Trade Center attack, UPS. And I'm warning you, I give you a warning because so you don't get caught by it. I gave you guys the reasons to fire me because I needed them to put that in the record because before the World Trade Center, before I came to UPS, they were already recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed roles, timing, predicate acts on with the names at the campuses, intercities, and at crime scenes with the name on my street, involved with my name and background fake, lying about and saying what they feel about me too, even when they're true. I figured this out because you're not following mandate law. So they have a whole bunch. They stacked rolls of names like the name, and you can't lie if you're a police about being a police. So in other words, there are things that they lie. Then you don't even know who you're talking to online. Weathersfield police have people next to food bag and associated with food bag. I don't know them on the South State Highway, and people with the name associated, people tied to a Jonathan Mahon and a Ray Club, the name Ray Club, and I don't know the people with the Nick LaPera. They tried to make fake exceptions, and I don't know at all. There was not even an exception with this Joshua Julian. He's one of the ones on the Facebook page of the principal child abuser who has roles with the intelligence community, ducking behind their roles with why and how actually they are themed the way they are. KKK themed, Confederate flag themed, and black and white female judges at the same time, collusions with Facebook, the news, and interbranch forging and switching names, stacking all these things and preventing me a voice by putting me in more and more fake transcripts. They prefer fake emails with WTNH, involved with FBI, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrought since their inception. So they can't be trusted, can't spoken to. So we have to do this online. On paper now. Get on paper now. And I want them on paper. And the ones with the narratives with Alex Jones and the people associated with the Sandy Hook campuses. Get them on the paper with the ones forging and switching names. They're preventing people from getting organized. These are people in the background trying to tell kids, oh, this is how you get your life organized. Get on paper. Pick one name and sequence. Get on paper. I'll show you what to do with the sick reason experts in the way of evolution's fruits and gifts and means, black pupils. Period. Get Judge Napolitano to get the Connecticut the branch on one name and sequence and response for why and how they have not provided me writing since they were kids. So I was a kid. And as their roles with collusions, with predicate acts, with facts, with people from other classrooms and intelligence community putting fake things. Get on paper now. Now. This is worse than extortion. You're going to hurt yourselves. Make sure you get if you deny things, in other words, I know they're going to tell you this too, with Weathersfield, the people involved. The ones that were in other classes are doing this, and they're forging and switching names. And they have those locations, the uses of the locations involved, and next to the locations, next to the parks, are something to do with the people on off the parks involved with predicate acts, with facts. Central Connecticut State University has a whole bunch of people all along Route 175 who acted and pretended to know me so others could film it, and really fast exceptions, and there are relative timed uses of it as the people involved, timed uses of collusions they forced Saudi Arabia, then they forced their hit as German military and American on Gooseberry or something. We're all along Route 175 and other conjunctions to it, and on Walker Hill Road. Now they have more professors and intelligence with Central Connecticut State University involved also with this. And this is in Weathersfield, interbranch, on off the state judicial branch offices, on off the state correction offices, people planting fake evidences on off the campuses through time and then connections to it, and fake motive Russians because they have shared roles with nuclear technology and agreements, peaceful or what. Get down. If they're not talking, there's a problem because what are they talking? The nature is criminally foreign influence. So Hartford Hospital and the names next to it, there are names with the names Demoro and Ayala. They have roles with people on Facebook, further involved with child offenders, leaders of the kids, and medical offenders against them, and with the names next to the campuses, and with the news at the same time. So don't make people beg. Get on one name in sequence. Don't pretend you don't understand people like punks. That's one of the ways they get away with these things. They have other natures of a crime. They only need one or the other. Blame, in other words, they have collusions with all things. So in other words, they have each age. In other words, they painted them. They were painted into corners. You don't have one. You have collusions with the overt criminal enterprise, private ones, and insidiousness of A through Z. Forgiveness is to get forced proper quality of fact should be nature, and everyone to stop with the identity thefts and frauds and pretending not to understand people. So get Judge Napolitano to get because his Facebook page is involved with the Fox News, with the Facebook pages of New Britain Superior Court, with passion crimes, with people after the World Trade Center attack, with Hartford courts and New Britain Superior Court were court confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They had effected confessions to me at West Hartford locations and New Britain locations on and off campuses before the World Trade Center attack as uses of the ground locations and names that were also involved with predicate acts when I was a kid. Has something to do with their roles with names on off the state of on off the community center of Wethersfield too, and names on all sides of it. Have been using my name, criminally foreign influence, fake ties to me, fake natures of ties to me, and their roles with names at corners of streets involved, increasingly with confessions where they pretended to play other. They have roles with various natures of drugs, police, that have untimely deaths, identity thefts, and frauds, and all kinds of natures of federal evidences, crimes, federal rules of evidences, crimes, and tactical delusions on off Old Town Cafe in Wethersfield. Involved also with the people on as the name's Cololo, involved with conversations with the name Cololo. And there's a Phil Cololo further with a Bob Chase, with Whiting Forensics through time with the same house, and one's associated with them, with the spots next to Trinity College, putting fake ties to me, fake natures of ties to me, and then speaking like little punk little kids, like they spoke to me like pretending we spoke like that in the past. Get on paper now. Fake branches fall. Fake branches fall. No, seriously, stop looking for excuses. Get on paper right now. Put it on paper. Pick one name in sequence. That's what mandated law says. Who disbelieves? Get them on paper. Don't leave out exceptions when you make the sick readings of statutes, of precedents and statutes. If I was trying to hurt you, I wouldn't warn you guys. Get on paper now. One name in sequence. I want it on paper now with the Wethersfield Police and with the Wethersfield Pizza. Wethersfield Pizza is recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with a whole bunch of people involved with child offenders with the campuses, intercities. Get on paper now. Get on paper because there's more people involved with gun threats and knife threats with the people, with the cops